Okay, it's Wednesday, January 25th. This is an end of the day SPY report, and today we end up with a kind of a two-down failure or two-down reversal type day where we made a new low on the day, but we closed strongly green to the upside. And this is a perfect example of how kind of context combines with methodology to set you on the right path for the day. So in other words, coming into the day, I discussed how even though we had a pretty wide pre-market range that was starting near the bottom of that range, the blue line, we were still in an area here that was kind of tricky in terms of number one, we had this fair value gap between the high of this bar and the low of this bar that could bring some support. We had a purple line that needed to be taken out in order to really take this weekly hammer bar from last week and go below the midpoint of that bar and possibly have a two-up failure bar that would continue much lower. And in terms of the pre-opening price action, this is how the methodology then guides you to kind of understand what may or may not be developing. So in other words, we really had a strong down opening, kind of a big gap down. And in the first bar, we kind of paused a little bit. So we didn't really start immediately green. We started red. And I posted a video how I went short here, bought puts on the 5-minute chart once I kind of saw that getting ready to break out of that first bar low. At that point, you're really monitoring closely what kind of continuation you're going to get. Are you going to get below that purple line? And I discussed that in the pre-open video if you want to watch that again. So anyway, we had a big red bar, which is nice. Then you came up, you paused for 2 bars. Then we start down again on bar number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess that is. And that kind of starts to look like it's going to follow through. Then you get this inside bar right here. This is the key bar, number 6. And at that time, you've come down, you've tried one push down, you've paused, you've tried another push down, you're pausing, and now you start up again. So at that point, it was a situation where you weren't getting that follow through you expected. And I discussed how on an inside bar like this, and this is the context part, you could often fail, once you can just fail to reach your target, which in this case, we did reach our target right at the open, which was the low of Monday. If you fail to reach your target and start up and get to the halfway point of that bar, that certainly is a reversal sign. But in this case, we reached our target, and that's all price really had to do here, since we're in this gap that could find support. So bottom line is, once we kind of came down, made 2 pushes, couldn't really follow through below a key area, and then started up, I exited. I actually took gains way before that, but in terms of then I reversed to the long side, and I shot all kinds of videos today discussing this up move if you want to look at it. So now we end up with a strong green bar. It should follow through tomorrow. We have this highs of the Monday and Tuesday to clearly take out with high probability. The weekly chart is still green, and now with 2 days to go in the week, if we get some follow through, you start kind of projecting out, well, if we can close strong tomorrow, let's say, then all of a sudden Friday would have to do a lot of damage to ruin that bar, and if that bar ends up green by the end of the week, then you're expecting follow through into next week. So a whole bunch of what if scenarios are unfolding to the upside that you're expecting, and again, anything can change, but for now you're really going to have to get below the midpoint of today in order to have any kind of negative, and that kind of, interesting enough, lines up with that weekly bar again turning back to red. So if we get below, the midpoint of yesterday, that's that yellow line. It will turn that weekly chart red, and maybe the rest of the week could fail. But until you do that, you're expecting all kinds of things to the upside, as discussed. And, you have this reference point now. Again, I would call it the midpoint of today and the early open of the week. As long as that we stay above there, then everything points to the upside until proven otherwise. So again, interesting day today, big gap down, but it reversed, and you were kind of getting ready for that if you had context in mind, and you again you used a methodology that I happen to use, which really puts a lot of premium on the opening price and getting follow through or not, especially below that intraday pre-market low or following through high above the pre-market high. In this case, we couldn't follow through after 5 or 6 bars, started back up, and that was your signal to give it a shot, and then you monitor it for all kinds of things, to confirm that you were getting this reversal, and they all, kind of confirmed it. So anyway, close big, strong green today. Let's see where we go tomorrow. Expectations to the upside.